everybody, welcome to a special, if not unique, edition of Southfield Now. If you're like I am, if you grew up in the 70s, some of you grew up maybe in the 60s or some in the 80s, all of you are going to remember the character Sir Graves Ghastly. Sir Graves aired on TV2, our own Southfield's own TV2. At the time it was WJBK TV2, and on Saturday afternoons a show called Sir Graves Ghastly would air. Sir Graves was a character that would introduce films, and Sir Graves was the lead character, but there were a lot of other characters, and he would introduce horror films, and then throughout the film these different characters would appear and add a lot of fun to the movie. I look back with great fondness on this show. I would watch it a lot with my mom, my family, and friends, and I just have great fondness, and I'm sure a lot of you do also. Well, what today's show is, we went to the Redford Theater, and a celebration, if you will, a weekend celebration of Sir Graves Ghastly occurred. They showed horror movies, Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, and Young Frankenstein. And they interspersed images of Sir Graves Ghastly and some clips from Sir Graves Ghastly during this weekend, so it was a really special event. Also, there was an unveiling of a Sir Graves statue that will permanently be housed at the Redford Theater. So like I say, it was a really special weekend, and what you're going to see is some highlights of that weekend. But it's really important. A lot of you are going to, as I'm talking to you, remember Sir Graves Ghastly. You're going to remember his laugh. If you stay till the end of the highlights, you stay till the end of Southfield Now, you will see from 1980 clips of an original episode of Sir Graves Ghastly. And it's Sir Graves Ghastly introducing Frankenstein, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching.
This is a huge weekend. Just in terms of attendance, we already had over 600 people here last night, which is the most we've had since the pandemic, which is exciting enough. But the whole weekend is really devoted to Sir Graves Ghastly, the legendary horror TV movie host from the 60s and 70s. He had a show from 1967 to 1982 on WJBK television, TV2, that I grew up with, a lot of us grew up with, and we're super excited because 3 of his 4 sons and a granddaughter are here for the celebration. And that's because one of the brothers has given us a very generous donation to launch a film festival in the name of their father, Lawson Deming, the actor that played Sir Graves Ghastly. So in this case, we've got Rick and Bud and David Deming on stage talking about their father before both the Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein presentations. But what's really exciting about the event is that we're treating it very much like an old TV show. If you were in the late 70s on a Saturday afternoon at this very time, you would be watching Sir Graves Ghastly, you'd be watching his comedy clip segments, commercials in between, and then you'd be seeing a segment of a classic horror film, you know, and that's what we're doing with Frankenstein. We've found an actual broadcast, very rare, of him introducing Frankenstein and then the bits that would have been on in 1980. David Deming, one of Lawson Deming's sons, is a professional sculptor. He was an educator too, I understand, in Ohio, which is where he lives. And he has created a life-size relief statue of his father in tribute to not only his father, but his mother, who is very much involved in the creation of the Sir Graves character. So it's, again, a life-size statue with some of the famous characters on the side of it that he created also, along with Graves, because as you may know, Lawson Deming played, you know, a dozen characters on the show over the years. He did everything. So it's going to be really fun. There's an unveiling that happens today during the 5 o'clock VIP segment. We're going to have a fella, Tim Kiska, who wrote a book on Detroit television, do an introduction to Graves' history and, you know, the nuts and bolts of his career. And then the sons are going to talk from the stage about their father. We're also going to be showing clips from the show and from Kelly and Company, the old TV show that he was interviewed on, Lawson Deming was, after he retired. So it's a really fun segment that we're going to show along with the event. And then it's going to be capped by that unveiling, which people are going to be so excited to see, this permanent fixture now at the Redford of Sir Graves Ghastly. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, here comes part of it. Let me go over there. There we go. There we go. Yeah, they like it too. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you were taller. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. David, you have to use your teacher voice.
Yeah, right.
Please tell us all about what you're up to with this. There's so much going on.
So when I mentioned this, that I had done another relief and decided to do Dead as a relief, I actually had started thinking that it would just be this inner panel, and I really didn't plan it out. I just knew that it would be his image on it. And so think about this in clay. So I'm modeling the clay, and I've got most of his image created, and then I decided, well, I got to show where he is. So he often was at the graveyard. So I thought I'd create this stone wall that would give you a little graveyard sense, and then decided that, okay, it needs a little action in the back, so I started this tree, and then the tree has to have an owl in it, and there's the moon. And then I in the other relief I had created part of a Greek vase on the bottom, and so this is the other side of the Greek vase. The other one was going that way, and put a dead flower in it, and then had to have a lizard in there, and there's a nice spider there on the bottom. So after I created most of that in clay, I thought it needed something more, so I was thinking of doing two pillars on each side, like entryways to the cemetery. And then after I created the first pillar with a bat gargoyle up there, I thought, well, I don't want to do another pillar, it'll make it look too symmetrical. So I thought this was the opportunity to tell the full story about all the other characters. So there's the Glob, Real McCoy that dug up the films at the beginning of the show and handed them to him. Tilly Trollhouse, what a cookie. Baruba was the grounds caretaker. You never saw his face, but he took care of the grounds. And then Walter was his slightly effeminate alter ego who did poetry, right? And so those were the main characters. And then when I did the sort of the alligator crocodile up there, I did this as an afterthought. After I had done all this other stuff, it needed something more organic across the top. Just aesthetically it did. So I didn't know why I came up with the alligator or the crocodile. Some people think it's one or the other. But after I modeled it, I started thinking, well, I wonder what that had to do with Dad's show or what people are going to think. But in fact, the fact that you heard that he was given this opportunity to do this show because of the Woodrow the Woodsman show, one of the characters was a crocodile. Freddie Gesundheit, the crocodile. So I realized that subconsciously I must have been thinking of that when I made this thing. So after it was done in clay, I took plaster mold off of the whole thing. These were taken separately in part, the croc separately, that separately, cast them in fiberglass like you would do a boat, into the mold. You'd paint the resin in and back it up with fiberglass, put it together, and then I found a paint that made it look like stone. If you can feel it, it even feels like sandstone that gives it more of that cemetery kind of look. So I was very happy with it, and down on the bottom here it does say Sir Graves Ghastly, created by Mary Reed and Lawson Deming, and signed by me and my son Michael, who's also a sculptor. On the very bottom, the light doesn't hit it, but it says Happy Haunting, which he would always say at the end of the thing. So there you go. And a very nice picture of Mom and Dad right next to it with a little treat underneath. So there you go. Well, first of all, about 6 years ago, we had a tribute to Sir Graves Ghastly here in the theater. and two of my three brothers and myself were able to come to it, the same brothers that are here now. We had such a great time. And when I found out recently that my brother Rick and his wife had decided to fund a grant so that this kind of thing could go on forever, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to do something. And because I'm a sculptor, I wanted to do something that could be here permanently to represent Sir Graves Ghastly and all the characters that he played. In terms of our family and our relationship to Dad's work in radio and television all his life, we got used to early on him being treated as a celebrity, especially in Cleveland where we grew up. So we were kind of used to having people flocking around him and admiring him. All that did to us was admire him even more, to know that he was affecting other people outside of our family as much, maybe even more so than he affected us personally. But it was always gratifying to have that kind of relationship with him. And he never got his head blown out of shape by that at all. He was always very humble and very thankful. I think he truly enjoyed putting love out there and being able to receive it back from the people that enjoyed him so much. Well, right before I created this, I was actually working on another project, a potential commission in the Cleveland area that was a 5-foot by 2-foot relief of a bunch of famous Greek legends, right? And that commission never turned out. But I had done a sample section of that, and right about that time, I heard that my brother Rick and his wife had made this grant to the theater, and I thought, oh gosh, I got to do something. And the next day that I was in my studio, I'm looking at that relief that I just made and thought, that's what I can do. Because I was thinking of doing a whole figure, and I thought that might be awkward for the theater to try to figure out where to put that, and even moving it around might be a problem. So I thought I could do a relief like this that could hang on a wall, and I could tell more of the story by doing the relief, because I could have little segments that would show all the other characters that he played.
And what do you say we get Bill McCoy him here to see what he's dug up for us today? That McCoy?
I'm over here by the tombstone, Sir Graves. What are you doing over there? There's that ladder there from your dungeon. Boy, I'm getting too old for climbing up them things like that. I dug this one up down about 3 feet from on the floor in the dungeon.
Yes.
Would you believe this is 48 years old?
48?
That's almost half a century.
Right you are.
It's one of the finest forgeries of all time.
Yeah, well, what is it?
Yeah, it's the original Frankenstein. First Karloff and May Clark and a whole bunch of other people. There she is, Sir Graves.
That's a beauty.
Frankenstein. Here, well, I tell you what, while you're starting the movie, I'm going to go back down in the dungeon and see if I can pick up a few more things.
Are you going back down that way?
Okay.
Oh, boy. You gotta be careful there. Oh, boy. Be careful. Watch the second round. Well, I warned him. Oh, well. Better him than me. All right there, Doc. Turn out your light. Pull down the tape. Roll up the drink. Let it up in your favorite spot by the telly and let us watch the original Frankenstein.